Okay, time for the intro. Hey guys! I don't know if you saw, but I awkwardly hit my elbow. We're gonna do that again. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Safari Pedal Show. I'm your host, Abby. If this is your first time here, welcome to the crazy wild safari podcast zoo thing bandwagon world. It's great to have y'all here. Today is a very exciting day because for the first time, I will add in a little star here. Besides Noam, who is the founder of Safari Pedals and a mastering engineer. Attached picture here. Hey Noam, shout out. We are having our first mastering engineer who's not Noam on the show, which is very exciting. Gonna crack into a whole new world. Ohad Nissim is gonna be on the show today, and we are going to be diving into a plethora of topics. Do you see how I use the word plethora? I'm so proud of that. We will be diving into a plethora of topics, from what got him into the world of mastering, his approach to mastering. He has this cool little square paper thing next to his gear that says respect the mix, so we're gonna dive into his whole philosophy of respecting the mix, what that means, and tips that he has for new producers like me and maybe some of you, also new engineers. Shout out, didn't forget y'all, about things that we can do to improve, to in the end make things not, I don't think easier is a word, but sound better when it gets to the mastering process. So I feel like there's not much more I can add to this intro. So guys, please give a very warm safari welcome to Ohad Nissim.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the show. What's up?
All good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. So before we dive in to all things mastering, let's start with who you are, what you do, and we'll take it from there.
So I'm Ohad Nissim. Originally from Israel, but I've been outside of Israel for the last, 17 years. I'm a mastering engineer. Right now I'm based in Luxembourg. Been traveling all over the place in between those 17 years. And ended up here somehow.
Somehow. By accident, just
By accident.
stumbled across Luxembourg. I'm really curious, how did you, where did you start audio-wise? Did you go straight for mastering, or were you a mixing engineer first?
I did everything, basically. I always wanted to be in the music business or work on music or anything related to music. So I started, it's like a big word, It's let's say I loved music from a young age. Yeah, when I was young, I used to find songs before they came out, the beginning of the internet. I was a real geek. So I was hunting for songs that are not out yet, or, back then nobody really, there was no, Spotify and stuff like that. People were missing a lot of music, basically. So I was suggesting what songs to play in parties for DJs and stuff like that. They used to come to my house every weekend, and I would suggest oh, this is gonna be the big hit or whatever, So I feel I kind of heard listening differently to music maybe back then. I officially started when I was 21 or so. I did some live sound engineering, in clubs in London, really trying to find my way. From that, I went to organizing parties, then DJ. Only later, I think around, 2010, I started getting into the more technical side of things. Also because I didn't find my way, DJing, it never really clicked for me. Then I went to study audio engineering at SAE in London. I did a lot of recordings and mixing and really trying to find what I like. That also didn't really click for me. It took me at least 5 years until actually something actually happened. And in between those 5 years, I moved to Berlin, and I was okay, maybe I can try this DJ thing again. And Berlin back then was this massive techno capital, and I was really into electronic music. So I started producing music. I took a year off, just sitting on my bum and trying to produce music and find my style. Berlin was extremely busy in that scene back then, and I got really limited chances. So I went to 5 to 9 stupid job. Almost not really giving up on my dream of working in the music business, but I was I wasn't sure anymore, how can I find my place in this world. While doing the 5 to 9, I tried to do music stuff as much as possible. Then somebody asked me like if I want to mix something. So I mixed something. I don't know. I guess they heard my music or whatever. And then I don't know if you know the website Sound Better. I mean,
I've
it's
heard
pretty
of
known
it.
right now. Yeah. So because I was such an internet geek all my life, I was always looking for a place. I was like, okay, maybe I can get some gigs. Like, but how do I find people who know, like, will hire me? Because I'm not known in any scene about as a mixing engineer or whatever. So I signed up for Sound Better back then. It still took like, I don't know, 8 months until they contacted me back. And then I did an interview, and after a couple of months, I was accepted to the website. And because it was kind of new back then, the competition was not massive. So I got a gig there. But the biggest thing happened to me, well, I got contacted by somebody to do an edit, like to a mix or whatever he wanted to record, blah, blah, blah. And I did the edit and a mix. And later on, the guy was Liliati, which now is like one of the most known rappers in the world.
Yeah.
But it was really before he got famous. It was for one of his mixtapes. I did like a mix for 2 songs, but I didn't know him. I was like, I was not an hip hop guy. I'm just like trying to find my way in music. I don't care. Give me everything. So yeah, I did that. And back then, of course, I knew already that credits are kind of count and people need to see that you work with people, blah, blah. So I put his name on my credits. I kept on getting some gigs. And then on Sound Better, I saw a name of an Israeli guy looking for somebody to master his album. I was like, I can do mastering, like I don't even know like what I'm doing, but I can probably do it. I just saw the Israeli name. I was like, that's a good connection, You will probably hire me because we're Israeli, blah blah blah, this all bullshit. And we started chatting, and he saw Lil Yachty in my credits. And he was like, "Oh, you're probably good. I'm gonna hire you." So he hired me. I actually did a good job on his album, like mastering. Yeah, shout out to Liran Goldstein, by the way.
Hey.
He's the guy who's probably started my career, and I owe him almost everything. But yeah, he's a really good friend now. That was basically the beginning of my mastering career. So then I quit my job. I was like, I can probably do it full time, I'm gonna go all in. I mean, early on I learned that if you're not going all in, it's really hard to really push something. You really have to go all in, or it's 50-50. You can never know in this business.
Yeah.
And that's basically where I started.
That's awesome. I want to ask you, like, since your first mastering gig was like really on the fly.
Yeah.
So the question divides into 2. Like, did it click for you? Like, this feels right. Like, then and there, you knew that this is what you wanted to pursue. And also, like, how was it for you technically? Like, figuring it out. Like, how was that process?
It didn't click right away. I was it interested me like really a lot to kind of be in charge of the final step of the song, and I need to do good. So it took a couple of projects for me to understand that I like mastering. At first it was very scary, of course, but it also was like that with mixing. But I kind of learned to trust my ears and my gut instincts. So I was like, I can do it. I just need to learn how to practice leads to like perfection almost. I mean, there's no perfect, but whatever. The other question was technically, right?
Yeah. Like, how was it for you? Like, for the first time?
Well, it was a lot of exploring. I mean, I referenced like a lot. It was an hip hop album, so I listened to so many hip hop albums. It was a lot of like trying. I mean, at first I was just using Ozone, like the full console, not even in a DAW.
Oh, wow.
Just the app of Ozone, and just trying different, the different compressors or whatever they had back then.
I really want to dive in and hear from you because I've been following you for a bit, so I've seen your Respect the Mix
Yeah.
that you have on your setup. So I'd really like to kind of dive into your philosophy of mastering and how you see the process and whatnot.
So Respect the Mix is kind of like a new-ish approach. That was actually shout out to Remy Lebos, which is a good friend. We were having a chat about, I think I had a master that I was kind of like not sure about. He's a great colleague with great ears. So we kind of bounced ideas about it. At some point, he said like, take a step back, just respect the mix. And then I took that kind of. I was like, I thanked him later. And so it's him and Chris Geringer, one of the GOATs. I went to a mix with a master workshop with him in Paris just to see his approach and the way he listens to music and how simple he works, but still makes it sound really good. So I took all of that and tried to like make it my own. So basically my all way of approaching mastering kind of changed in the last year and a half. I decided to go more minimalistic with my gear, keep it simple, clean, never think technical. I don't think numbers. I just listen. My goal, at least anyway, with mastering is to make the song loopable, I like to call it. So if you take a song I mastered and you loop it, you won't get tired of listening to it. Or at least, let's say you loop it for 4 or 5 times, it still sounds good and you're not like, I'm exhausted. So that's basically my approach, like to make it musical as much as possible, put the shine on whatever the mixing engineer try to make shine and make it loopable. That's my philosophy right now.
I love that approach. And like, how does that philosophy reflect in the gear that you have now? Like, how does that come together?
I went through so much gear in the last 5 years. Since basically I'm involved with analog gear, which I got introduced. I moved to a studio in Berlin with a dear friend, and he already had some analog gear, but I had no experience with analog gear before. So it kind of, wow, I was like, okay, there's a cooler niche to mastering, and not just turn the screen with plugins and play with the mouse. And since then, I was really interested in analog gear. So I kept on like buying different gears, like different EQs, different compressors, different, I don't know, distortion, whatever you can get in the mastering world. And just kept comparing and kind of my ears got used to like things that I like more, like less. And I'm like the most impatient guy in the world. I don't have patience for anything. If I don't like something, like a week after, it's gonna be on sale. Like people were always laughing at me, like, you didn't even try it. I was like, no, I know what I like. A week later, it's like on sale and I'm ordering something else. And kind of with this journey, I learned that also, well, unfortunately, the expensive gear sounds better.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
Oh no.
Yeah, unfortunately, at least in mastering, it's just cleaner and more precise and smoother. So I was looking for like the colors I like. I really like colors, but I learned that I can't change the mix. I was looking for gear that I can design the mix, but not rebalance it. I don't want to change the balance of the mix because it was already set. The vocal sits here, the bass sits there. One of my EQs, for example, I can push 3 dB, but it won't change the balance of the mix. It's pretty cool. So that's kind of the gear I was looking for, like things that it's enough to put in and they make the mix sound better. And I decided to keep it very minimal, not more than 4 pieces of gear between my converters and the best converters I can get, like the cleanest and tightest and punchiest. So I decided on the best 2 EQs, which I think are the best 2 EQs and the best 2 compressors. And I was like, I call it a day. And then it was just basically like what comes after what, because some gear really sounds different and act different according to what the piece of gear before it and after it. So I really it was like a puzzle almost. And now I'm like that for, I don't know, for the past couple of months, and it sounds really amazing. I really love it.
That's awesome. How long did it take you to kind of figure out that puzzle of what comes after what? Was that like a long process?
Yeah, about 6 to 8 months, I would say. Like every 2 months also, I would change the placement of the gear. And because I wanted to minimize the setup, I didn't get like a console that you can just, change in mastering. We have this console that you can just, with a press of a button, you can switch the spot of the gear. But I didn't want to add another piece of gear to the chain, so I literally take the cables out and replug. Yeah.
That's crazy, but listen, guys, he found the puzzle in the end, so came together.
Yeah, I'm really happy. I mean, sometimes when I'm like do a lot of work and I feel like I'm maybe getting bored because I'm also that kind of person who gets bored. Sometimes it was one of the reasons why I kept on like buying and selling gear, like to keep my boredom out of the way. But sometimes I think like, oh, do I need something else? Do I need to change it again? But then it just works. And I'm like, okay, calm down.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Respect the mix.
Yeah.
So another question I wanted to ask you, like in general, the show really is centered around being new and starting out. Like you as a mastering engineer, do you have kind of comments of things that new producers and mix engineers can improve to either help the mastering engineer or do something like, or comments you have kind of that affect your work down the line?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this question like a couple of days ago, because I had a feeling that that question is gonna be asked. I think what mixing engineers or producers need to work on the most is their confidence with their work. If a guy is confident about his mix and he's sending me a mix and he's telling me, I'm happy with the mix, this is where I wanted to go, or I'm almost there, do your thing. I like confidence in a mix. What I get a lot is, oh, I'm not sure about this. I don't mind listening. I don't mind giving feedback. I'm happy to. It's part of my approach. Send me whatever. I'll give you feedback. I don't mind. I'll help you bring the mix to wherever it needs to go. But when you get to the moment where you send me something, be confident with what you're sending. It's not easy to get there. It sometimes happens to me, like I send a master and I'm not confident about my result, or like sometimes I will do a different version or stuff like that. But I think confidence is super, super important. Related to that, to get to the point of being confident with your work is your room and your monitoring. So forget about plugins, forget about which engineer use whatever, or how do you EQ, or if you can't hear what you're doing properly, you will never get confident with your mix. You will always get lost at some point. Always invest in your room, invest in your speakers as much as possible, of course. Together with that, you'll be confident with what you deliver. That's what I think some people are lacking, from my experience anyway.
That's great. And it's honestly, that was like a curveball. I expected it to be more like mixed problems, like you said, low end, high end,
Yeah.
muddy, low mid type stuff. But like, I think those, like, it stems from like a place of confidence and I guess making creative decisions. So
Exactly.
it's a very,
It doesn't matter. I mean, to clean muddiness, yeah, okay, it's easy to, I don't know, you learn how to control your low end. But at the end, when you print that mix, you need to be confident about, okay, I did whatever I can. I brought it to where I wanted, or close as possible to where I wanted it to be.
So to kind of sum up the whole topic of mastering, or the whole world of mastering, you can say, and STEM mastering too, I always like to ask our amazing guests to either drop a piece of advice or something you want to say to the amazing Studio Animal viewers. So do you have anything you want to say to the people?
If you want to work in this field, if you want to work in music, do music, you really have to go 100%. I'm talking like 24/7. When I started and I didn't get a lot of gigs, what I used to do is contact people that I want to work with. And I'm doing it even nowadays. I mean, that's how I move forward. I collaborate with more people. I make more connections. Sometimes I even travel to meet these connections. People sometimes wonder like, oh, I live in a small country, or I live in a small city. There's no way I can move forward in this field. There's no people here that doing good music or whatever. But people forgetting that this is like 2024 and we have like the whole world in the press of a button on the internet. Think about it, if you like an introvert and you don't like to talk to people, that kind of solves that for you. You no longer need to go to a club and really push yourself to talk to people and make conversation. I don't know, you find an artist that you want to work with, text him, hey, I really like what you're doing. If you, I don't know, you want to try something together. And you can never know where it's going to lead, Some people will answer you, some people won't. I mean, that's how I started working with Tizio, which was the most unexpected thing in the world, because Tizio is such an amazing mixer and he was like blowing up. And I was like, okay, I don't know, I'll send him a message. I have to say he's like the nicest person I've ever met in my life. Yeah, shout out TZO for really like giving me chances, and also being a friend. Is like a super nice guy, and it's all started from me messaging him on Instagram. Yeah, don't be afraid to contact people. I mean you have not.
It's a great piece of advice, and I really appreciate that it like puts like the control in your court because you're the one being proactive and
Exactly.
pushing the cart. So guys, take that piece of advice. You
Yeah,
can
be
do it.
proactive. Don't
Do
sit
it.
on your bum and say, why nobody is contacting me, or oh no, I'm stuck here, nobody cares about me in my small town or whatever. Just be proactive. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Guys, you leave the basement sometimes. Go into
Yeah.
the sunlight and text some people.
Well, you don't even have to leave the basement. You can just text from your basement.
Yeah, text
That
from the
also works.
basement, guys. You don't even have to go outside ever again.
Yeah, you don't have to go outside.
No, but it's such a good piece of advice. I really appreciate you hopping on the podcast. I really learned a lot and new mindset shifts as well.
I appreciate you having me. It's always fun talking audio and mastering, and I really like the questions because I complained recently that nobody asked me about like the things around the business. People always ask me, "Oh, what limiter do you choose?" or "What do you think about clipping?" And and I'm like, "Yeah, this and that, but it doesn't matter." But nobody ever asked me about like, "Oh, how did you make your business work?" or "Where did you start?" or stuff like that. And I think that's even more important nowadays. Like marketing and building your business and thinking business is so important nowadays in studio world.
And I really appreciate you saying that because that's been a big goal of mine with the show is to dive into to really the mindset behind, because a lot of people use the same plugins, but some people
Exactly.
are doing this full time and some people are not doing this full time. So there's something in between there that we got to tap into more. It's really valuable. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that.